more than 1 million people who've given us contributions now, and that's voluntary. They do it just because they want to, because we're really keen to make sure that our website remains free so as many people as possible can see it. I think what I would say about the contribution model is that, we have found that environment stories are particularly good persuading people to give us money because they think it's a really important topic. The Guardian's doing a really good job, better than other people. I feel very lucky to work for The Guardian because I think it, takes the climate crisis and wildlife crises more seriously probably than most any other paper. I think 5 or 6 in London, 3 in Australia, 3 in the United States, all dedicated environment reporters. We have dedicated environment editors and picture editors in London as well. So, we put in a lot of resources. And the reason for that is because since 2008, the editors-in-chief have thought that the climate crisis is the biggest challenge facing humanity, and it will be the story of the 21st century. 2 important things to say. One is that we have never made the climate or environment a kind of special section in the newspaper or a special corner somewhere, and that's because we think it should be in everything. So it should be in business reporting, it should be in arts and culture reporting, it should be in all the reporting across all the different desks. So in a way, everybody should be a bit of a climate environment journalist. So The Guardian has made a climate pledge, which is to do with cutting our emissions right down as a business, and also other things, including not taking advertisements from fossil fuel companies anymore. And the reason the business has done that, and they say it was from the top of the organisation, the editor-in-chief and the business side, is that if we're talking about the climate crisis and saying it's very urgent every day and that we need to take a lot of action very quickly, then obviously we need to do that ourselves. We need to not just talk the talk, but walk the walk. And that's been the motivation behind that. It's a good question, and because The Guardian has taken the climate crisis so seriously and done so much work on it, I think sometimes people do look at us and say, "Oh, you're activists," but we are very conscious of that issue. And I would say that in our news reporting, we report the facts. In my case, I tend to write a lot about science and scientific studies, and these have usually been produced in journals and reviewed by other scientists. And so, the reality is so serious and extreme and concerning that I don't think you need to exaggerate that in order to make, very strong stories. So I think that if people think that we are acting like campaigners, then perhaps they don't really understand the seriousness of the situation. So I think there are lots of different ways, to talk about the importance and show the importance to our readers of the climate crisis. One is to try and report the facts, which is, what's actually happening in the world. So how the temperature is changing, how the number of storms is increasing, how droughts are increasing, how, all these impacts are becoming very obvious now. But, the environment and the climate crisis, they're very broad topics, really. It's not just about the science and the temperature. It's about economics. So, there's a lot of talk about Green New Deals, trying to spend money in greener ways. And it applies, to business, to energy, to food in particular. And all of these things are going to be affected. So I think, in our coverage, we try and show how, almost every aspect of life for almost everybody on the planet is going to be affected by this. Because I think, sometimes you can present the facts and it's quite scientific and there's numbers, but that's not necessarily as persuasive as telling stories about real people in real places. So, we try to do both. As you say, from reader contributions, and that's become really important. More than 1 million people who've given us contributions now, and that's voluntary. You know, they do it just because they want to, because we're really keen to make sure that our website remains free so as many people as possible can see it. We make some money from advertising, of course, and also from the sale of printed newspaper in the UK. I think what I would say about the contribution model is that, you know, we have found that environment stories are particularly good persuading people to give us money because they think it's a really important topic. The Guardian's doing a really good job, better than other people. And other media organisations have done this. They ask readers for a contribution. They say, we want to go and do this, but we need some money, right? Just to get the reporters there and to cover their time. And again, sometimes it's surprising, you know, that people will contribute in that way. So, you know, the internet makes it quite easy to put these offers in front of people. And as I say, I think people might be surprised at how keen people are to help with these things. I think that's a really important point, Dan. I think a lot of the people who don't really want climate change action, like the energy companies, are very keen and very excited to focus on people's individual actions, as you say, whether that's not driving your car as much or any other topic. And that's because it gets them off the hook. And it is wrong. In a society, you can only make the choices when they're available. If there are no electric charging points for cars, then no one's going to buy the car. If you can't buy good vegetarian food, then you're probably going to keep on eating meat, you know. So I think everyone is really clear that there has to be systemic change, you know, at the government level, at company level, and that's the thing that's really going to solve the climate problem. One of the other problems that comes along is that when you start talking about systemic change, people say, oh, that's going to be bad for the economy, it's going to destroy jobs, it's going to be terrible, we can't afford it. Now, all of that is rubbish, it's nonsense. You know, we've known for a long time, since 2006 and the Stern report probably, that acting on climate change is cheaper than not acting on climate change. It produces better jobs, it produces a cleaner environment, and so the country spends less on healthcare. We are starting to see governments change their attitudes, we're starting to see some companies change their attitudes, but, you know, in a way, the two things, the systemic change, individual action, come together in one thing, which is people being active in terms of politics and campaigning. We will never solve the climate crisis with just individual actions. It has to be systemic.